a notification pops up. Rare image hits the internet, and within seconds, literally seconds, millions of people are analyzing every single pixel.
Oh, yeah, completely dissecting it.
Right. And just like that, the world has a new obsession. But what you might not know is that the moment a celebrity posts that innocent, highly curated family photo, they might actually be legally stripping away their own child's right to privacy.
Which is terrifying when you really think about it.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us because today we're exploring this invisible legal trap of celebrity parenting.
Yeah, and the catalyst for this whole conversation is a headline you've probably seen, or maybe you scrolled right past it. It's Meghan Markle just shared something she rarely shows.
Exactly. We've recently seen this this flurry of highly specific, meticulously curated images and videos of Princess Lilibet and Prince Archie.
And, I mean, the natural human reaction is to just smile, right? You see a 5-year-old touching a flower, and it's cute. But our mission for this deep dive goes way beyond royal gossip or commentary.
Way beyond.
We're using these images to kind of unpack this massive, high-stakes legal and cultural battleground.
And to do that, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources for you today. We've got current entertainment drops, we're looking at international legal rulings, and this really compelling piece of academic research called Kids Sell: Celebrity Kids' Right to Privacy.
It's a fantastic paper.
It is. But before we plunge into all the courtroom battles and the transatlantic legal differences, we need to understand the strategy behind the imagery first.
Right. We have to look at exactly what is being shared right now and, honestly, what's being withheld.
Yes. So let's talk about the recent media drops around Princess Lilibet's 5th birthday. This was June 4th, 2026.
Right.
The public got this very specific glimpse into their California life. We saw a photo of Prince Harry holding Lilibet, and it prominently features her long red hair.
Which is such an aesthetic detail, right? It immediately connects her to the Spencer family lineage in the public's mind. Oh, absolutely. It's instantly recognizable. And she's barefoot in a sundress, reaching out to touch a purple flower. And the caption just read, "Our dream girl."
Yeah. And then that was followed by the Father's Day post.
Right.
You have Archie wearing an England football top, which, is a clear nod to the World Cup.
Right.
And Lilibet has this little giraffe teddy strapped to her back.
It's adorable. But the piece of media that really stopped people in their tracks, the one that went everywhere, was a home video shared on Instagram stories.
Oh, the Beagle video?
Yes. It is this tear-jerking, super intimate moment showing Lilibet in her pajamas, and she's kissing a framed photo of Meghan's late Beagle guy.
Yeah, and they put Mary Wells' classic track, My Guy, playing underneath it.
Right. I mean, it is totally engineered for emotional resonance.
Completely. It creates this immediate sense of intimacy between the viewer and this, highly guarded family. You feel like you're right there in their living room. But the contrast here is what we really need to pay attention to. Because around this exact same period, the family made a public charitable appearance in Los Angeles.
Right. At OBKLA, our big kitchen, Los Angeles.
Exactly. Archie and Lilibet were there, and they were wearing matching hairnets and hats, actively helping their parents chop peppers and roll dough for the food insecure.
Which is such a beautiful echo of how Princess Diana approached parenting. Purposefully taking her boys to homeless shelters so they understood the reality outside the palace walls.
Yeah, but here's the kicker. At this specific charity event, Archie and Lilibet's faces were strictly hidden from the cameras, like completely obscured.
And that dichotomy, that is the foundation of our entire discussion today.
It's like we're being handed these highly filtered pages torn out of a royal family album, right?
Yeah.
The parents are acting as the sole gatekeepers of the vault. They determine exactly which version of their children the public gets to consume.
Which begs the question, why? Why show the kids' faces in a highly intimate private home video, but then go to such extraordinary lengths to hide them at a public community charity event?
Right. What's the strategy?
Well, releasing the private video on their own platform allows them to maintain absolute control. They control the narrative, the lighting, the audio, the context.
Everything.
Right, but at a public event, even a tightly controlled one, that power fractures. Cameras are everywhere. But putting these controlled images into the public sphere, it doesn't just happen randomly.
No, the timing is never an accident.
Exactly. If we look at the timing of these releases, the narrative kind of shifts away from sweet family milestones and crashes right into the intersection of personal life and brand building.
Yeah, the timing is honestly impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
These photo drops coincided with major professional milestones for Meghan. Like, the second season of her Netflix show with Love Meghan had literally just debuted.
Right.
And concurrently, she launched all these new product lines for her As Ever brand. We're talking luxury spreads, orange marmalade, a 10-pound luxury raspberry spread, 15-pound floral sprinkles.
And they sold out in minutes, right?
Yeah, instantly gone.
Furthermore, she appeared on the Confessions of a Female Founder podcast with Whitney Wolfe Herd, the founder of Bumble.
Oh, that was a great interview.
It was. And during that interview, Meghan shared this really relatable anecdote about Lilibet sitting on her lap during executive board meetings.
Right. It paints this vivid portrait of the modern, multitasking working mother, like, I'm running an empire, but my toddler is on my knee.
Exactly. But putting these curated photos and anecdotes out there while simultaneously launching products, it triggers an inevitable public reaction.
Oh, of course.
Because while fans are thrilled to see the kids, critics immediately jump in and accuse the Duchess of leveraging her children's images to generate traffic and promote her commercial ventures.
Which brings us to a really foundational concept from that Kids Sell academic paper we mentioned. It introduces this idea of privacy stewardship.
Yes, privacy stewardship.
So in the digital age, parents, and this means ordinary citizens as well as global celebrities, are voluntarily placing their children into the public domain. And the research highlights the explosion of what they call the Facebook paparazzi, or the Insta-paparazzi.
I find that term so fascinating, the Insta-paparazzi.
It's perfect, right? It perfectly encapsulates our modern reality.
Yeah, because the barrier to entry for paparazzi used to be so high. It involved thousands of dollars of camera equipment and, a willingness to hide in the bushes for 12 hours.
Right.
But today, practically every human being on the street has a high-definition lens in their pocket. So the moment a parent hits publish on an app or even just steps onto a public sidewalk, they are feeding this insatiable global machine.
I understand the academic perspective there, but I do have to push back a little on the criticism directed at celebrities here.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about your own social media, right? Every time you post a photo of your kid at a soccer game or eating a messy plate of spaghetti, you are acting as their privacy steward.
That's true.
When a regular mom does it, her friends shower her with heart emojis. It's just cute. But when Meghan does it, it's analyzed as this calculated corporate strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, are we holding celebrities to an impossible standard just for participating in the exact same digital culture that we all do?
That is a very fair point. The cultural standard might absolutely be hypocritical, but the legal standard, that's where the real danger lies. And this is the absolute crux of the academic research.
Right.
If a celebrity voluntarily shares their child online, do they legally forfeit that child's right to privacy?
Wow.
Yeah. In the United States, the courts utilize a mechanism called a balancing test. A judge basically has to constantly weigh the First Amendment, so the freedom of the press and the public's constitutional right to know, against an individual's right to privacy.
I'm trying to picture how a judge even approaches that, though. I mean, they must have to weigh the public's demand for celebrity gossip against a literal child's vulnerability.
Yeah.
How do you quantify that?
Well, the courts rely heavily on a metric known as the self-promoted characteristics prong.
Okay, what does that mean?
Under U.S. law, non-political celebrities, so actors, musicians, reality stars, influencers who actively seek fame, have a substantially weaker claim to privacy. The legal philosophy is basically that these individuals willingly traded their privacy for public attention and financial gain.
But wait, legally, how does that hold water when it comes to a child? A 5-year-old didn't agree to a trade-off for fame. They didn't sign a contract to be a public figure. It feels like the U.S. legal system is punishing the child for the sins of the parent.
It really does. And the academic paper points out that exact harsh reality. If parents use their children to bolster their public image, or if they voluntarily expose them to the media through curated posts, the press gains a much stronger legal defense to publish unauthorized paparazzi photos.
Unbelievable.
The legal argument from the media basically becomes, hey, you can't claim your child's face is private when you just used their face to promote your jam brand on Instagram. You made them newsworthy.
So the ultimate catch-22 is that by trying to control the narrative, by releasing their own beautiful curated photos so the paparazzi don't have to hunt for them, celebrities might actually be dismantling their own legal shield against those very same paparazzi.
Precisely. They are handing the media the exact legal precedent they need to justify further intrusion.
That is wild.
And what's interesting is that this dynamic contrasts sharply with how U.S. law views political celebrities. So elected officials or heads of state.
I imagine this is totally different for politicians. Like, if you are the president, your kid's actions might actually be a matter of national security, so the privacy shield has to be center, right?
Yes and no. The press is given massive latitude when covering politicians, but the justification relies on two academic concepts: the checking value and the self-governing theory of democracy.
Okay, so essentially self-governing theory means that in a democracy, the voters are the boss. And to be a good boss, you have to be allowed to legally spy on your employees, meaning the politicians, to make sure they aren't compromised or acting hypocritically.
That is a perfect way to translate it. If a politician campaigns on a platform of heavily supporting public schools, but the press discovers they are secretly sending their child to a $50,000 a year elite private academy,
Right.
that private detail informs a voter's decision. So the press is acting as a watchdog. But even with that vital democratic function, politicians strongly argue their children should be completely off limits.
Which is true. We saw the media largely respect the boundaries around Chelsea Clinton and the Obama daughters during their time in the White House.
Exactly.
Which honestly highlights a bizarre contradiction. The press will back off a politician's kid for the sake of decency,
Yeah.
even though there's a valid democratic argument for covering them. But a paparazzi chasing an influencer's toddler through a grocery store isn't doing the vital work of democracy. They're just feeding a commercial machine.
Which is exactly what prompted Halle Berry to take the fight directly to the California Assembly.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, she campaigned fiercely for a law limiting paparazzi access to celebrity children. And during her testimony, it was powerful. She acknowledged the reality of his profession. She said, "Look, I understand I gave up some of my own privacy for my career."
Right.
But she argued passionately that her child did not choose the spotlight and shouldn't have to live in terror of simply walking out the front door.
And any rational person agrees with that. A child shouldn't be penalized with a lifetime of surveillance just because of their mother's IMDb page.
Absolutely.
But U.S. law seems incredibly rigid on this.
Yeah.
The prevailing attitude is basically, if you are in a public space, you are fair game.
And that geographical quirk, the fact that simply existing in a public space in the U.S. generally strips you of your privacy rights, that is what makes Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's current situation so incredibly complex.
Because they live in California.
Exactly. And to fully understand their strategy, we have to look across the Atlantic, because the legal philosophy in the UK and Europe completely flips the script.
Okay, it's like the U.S. treats fame as this irreversible chemical reaction. Once you mix the ingredients and become a public figure, you can never unmix them. You are public forever, everywhere.
Right.
But the UK treats fame more like wearing a uniform. A celebrity's kid can take the uniform off the second they step out of a branded event and just be a normal kid on the street.
That analogy perfectly captures the European legal framework. Let's look at a landmark case detailed in our sources involving J.K. Rowling.
Okay.
So her 18-month-old son, David, was photographed sitting in a buggy on a street in Edinburgh, a completely public street.
Now, if that happened in New York or Los Angeles, that case would be thrown out before lunch. Public street equals zero expectation of privacy.
Exactly. But the UK court ruled overwhelmingly in Rowling's favor.
Really?
Yes. The judge articulated this profound difference in philosophy. He said walking down the street is a private recreation, not a public event.
Wow.
And most importantly, the court ruled that a child of famous parents possesses the exact same inherent expectation of privacy as an ordinary child. The press cannot legally target a child simply because of their parents' notoriety.
That is a massive fundamental shift in how society views human rights versus press rights.
It is. And the application of this law gets even more fascinating when you look at the Paul Weller case.
The British musician.
Yeah, Paul Weller, he's highly recognizable in the UK. Well, his children were photographed by paparazzi while they were just hanging out in a cafe and shopping on the streets of Los Angeles.
Wait, they were in California,
Yes.
but the photographers were operating under California law, where taking those photos in public is completely lawful.
Right. The physical act of taking the photos was entirely legal under U.S. jurisdiction. However, those photos were subsequently published in the UK by the Mail Online.
Oh,
So Weller sued in the English courts, and the courts ruled in his favor.
that is mind-blowing. So even though the paparazzi followed the law where the photos were taken, publishing them in a different country constituted a massive privacy violation.
Yeah. The English courts essentially declared, we do not care about the geographic origin of the photograph. If you publish it within our borders, you are violating this child's inherent right to privacy under our laws.
Wow.
It proved that the UK will aggressively and proactively protect children's privacy, regardless of where the shutter was actually clicked.
So if we connect all these legal realities back to Harry and Meghan, they are facing a massive, literally unprecedented dilemma.
Huge.
They live in California, where the law dictates that if you are famous and outside, the cameras have a right to your image. But their historical, familial, and institutional ties are deeply rooted in the UK.
Right. Which raises a critical point regarding their physical security and their upcoming travel logistics. You have to remember, Prince Harry was stripped of his automatic taxpayer-funded UK security protections back in 2020.
Right.
And he has repeatedly stated on the record that he feels it is fundamentally unsafe to bring his wife and children to the UK without that specialized state-level police protection.
He even fought a really lengthy legal battle trying to reinstate that automatic security, and he lost.
He did.
He has made it clear he cannot envision a scenario where he brings his family back into that environment under the current security conditions.
But the landscape is actively shifting right now. There are heavy, persistent rumors of a planned summer meeting with King Charles in 2026.
Right, because the king hasn't seen Archie or Lilibet in person since the Platinum Jubilee in 2022.
Exactly. Furthermore, looking ahead to 2027, the Invictus Games are scheduled to be hosted in Birmingham, UK. Yeah. And reports suggest Meghan and the children plan to join him for that event, potentially requesting to stay at Buckingham Palace simply because it is the most heavily fortified and secure building in Britain.
So they are trapped in a literal tug-of-war between physical safety and legal privacy.
Yes.
In the United States, the paparazzi can legally hound them and photograph their kids on the sidewalk, but they can hire a massive private security team to physically surround them and keep them safe.
Right.
But in the UK, the paparazzi can be sued into oblivion for publishing unauthorized photos of the kids. But the family feels incredibly physically exposed without state-level police protection.
It is an impossible geographical balancing act. And understanding this dilemma perfectly decodes their current media strategy.
Absolutely.
By releasing their own highly curated images, like Lilibet in her birthday dress or Archie proudly wearing his football topos, they are attempting to feed the intense public interest on their own terms.
Right. They feed the beast just enough.
Exactly. And simultaneously, they utilize highly controlled environments like the OBKLA Charity Kitchen to teach their children about public service without exposing their faces to the raw, unedited, and legally unprotected glare of the American press.
They are desperately trying to be the ultimate privacy stewards for their kids.
Yeah.
They're giving the public the Instagram story with the dog and the Mary Wells song, but throwing a blanket over the cameras at the food bank. They are walking a razor-thin line.
But as the academic research in Kids Cell demonstrates, walking that line legally weakens their position in the United States.
Right.
Every curated photo they post chips away at their legal defense against the paparazzi. Yet from their perspective, it is likely the only viable way to maintain any semblance of control over their children's global narrative.
We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. From the intricate details of a 5-year-old's birthday sundress to the philosophical differences in international privacy torts.
We really went everywhere.
We've seen how the First Amendment creates a legal trap for celebrity parents, and how rulings like the J.K. Rowling case prove that, another way is possible. Thank you for guiding us through the mechanics of this incredibly complex maze.
It's a vivid demonstration of what happens when constitutional law, modern celebrity culture, and the deeply human instinct to protect one's children all collide.
It truly is. And for you listening, as you navigate your own digital life and act as the privacy steward for your own family, we want to leave you with a final lingering question to mull over.
Yeah.
We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing the rights of the parents, the demands of the media, the precedent of the lawsuits, and the careful curation of Instagram posts.
Yeah.
But what happens when the children of the social media age, whether they are royal heirs or the kids of your favorite lifestyle influencer turn 18?
That is the big question.
If your entire childhood was heavily documented, monetized, and broadcast as part of a global brand, even lovingly, and with the best intentions, can you ever truly reclaim a private identity of your own?
The long-term psychological and legal fallout of that question is the great unknown of our current digital era.
A notification pops up. A rare image hits the internet. But maybe next time you'll look at that pixelated image and the invisible legal trap behind it just a little bit differently. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Keep exploring the hidden forces shaping the world around you, and we'll catch you next time.